At long last, the ideal steel is finally connected to the chimney and ready to go. So I'm about to build the first seasoning fire in the stove. So this will be a small fire. Then I'm gonna let it go out just to warm the stove up a little bit, start curing the paint, getting the soapstone liner set in. And so it's not good to just go with a blazing fire and just get everything real hot all at once. So we're gonna do a couple of small fires, one tonight, one tomorrow, and then after that, we should be ready to put the stove into full-time service.
My plan is actually to start this fire a little bit the old-fashioned way, using all of these little shavings and then ultimately working up to the bigger kindling pieces and then a couple of smaller splits there. And so that's how I'm going to build this fire. I'm going to see if I can pull it off with one match. So I'm starting with this small pile of shavings. I think I'm going to light it down there in the lower corner and then just try and keep small pieces going on and feeding it until it gets bigger and bigger. And I can use bigger and bigger pieces, and hopefully everything will catch and burn nicely. We now have a nice reasonable fire going. There's a little bit of moisture condensating on the glass there, which the manual says is normal as it comes out of the soapstone. The front of the stove here, not very warm, about 100. But if we look up at the top back here, we're getting close to 300 degrees there. And then the pipe temp is somewhere around 125 or so on the way up. So burning nice. It does smell as the paint is kind of curing here, so that's why the fan is on, pulling the air out of the window. It's not toxic, but it's not exactly pleasant to smell it. It's been another 15 minutes now. I did add one more medium split in there. There's about 4 small to medium splits in there now. The front of the stove temperature is now starting to climb a little bit, 275 or so. Looking at the stove top there, that's up to about 450, and the pipe now is showing 300. Now the manual says you can probably engage the catalyst when the pipe is saying 250. So I'm actually going to go ahead and engage that catalyst now. So to do that, we just bring this down. And now the catalyst is engaged. We'll see what happens. It's been another 15 minutes or so. I now have the air control set at halfway. The catalyst is definitely working. The temperature here on the front came up to around 350. If we look over at the top of the stove, though, the temperature is now just a little over 500, and the stove pipe is under 300. And if anything, the stove pipe temperature came back a little bit, while the stove top and the front of the stove have actually risen. So we're just going to let this fire burn out at this point. This is kind of a small to a medium fire with only about 4 pieces in there, so that firebox isn't loaded anywhere near to capacity. We'll let this burn out and we'll do it again tomorrow. Overall, it seems like the stove's working great so far through this first fire. Looking forward to having a second fire to finish the seasoning process tomorrow, and then getting this burning full time as we get into the beginning of next week, where we're expecting some forecasted temperatures going down into the single digits at night. So definitely having the stove up and running will be welcome.